Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to talk all about linear settings, what the benefits are, what the disadvantages are, why so many players are switching to it, and why it seems to be something that pretty much every controller player is going to switch to in the future if they want to continue to get better. If you find this video helpful or informative, please do remember to give it a like rating and subscribe if you would like to see more. I switched to linear settings very recently. It's been about 2 or 3 days, and I play a lot, so in that 2 or 3 days, I have gotten used to it a fair amount, because I'm someone who plays a lot. If you don't play very often, or you only play like an hour or two a day, it might take you quite a while to adjust to linear settings, but I do think that everybody can get used to it, even though it will feel very, very, very strange at first. You can get used to it if you put in the time and if you actually want to get used to these settings. If you don't already know the advantages of linear settings, I'll have some graphs on screen to basically explain it. This is what an exponential curve looks like. You see it slowly increases until it really increases. Think about that with your sensitivity. It's slow at first, and then it really increases and reaches its max speed. That's how exponential is. And if you've been playing Fortnite, you've been on exponential curve pretty much the entire time. Legacy settings are exponential. The only way to get linear is to use the new settings and select the linear option. So the entire time you've been playing on Fortnite, you've been on these exponential settings where it like slowly increases until it really increases, and this can make things feel very delayed, and it can make it hard to hit flick shots or any sort of flick motion. This is what a linear curve looks like. As you see, it increases at a steady rate. There is no change of the rate it increases. It's just the same constantly. And the reason why this feels good is because you pretty much have your max speed for your sensitivity all the time. You might have to turn your sensitivity down when you switch to linear, but your sense is going to feel the same all the time, and this makes it very consistent and very like predictable for hitting flick shots with shotguns, doing edits, doing builds. All of these things are much better with linear, and the reason why that's important is because the meta currently in Fortnite is box fights, and it has been for quite some time. So in those box fights, you're up close to somebody, you're editing, you're replacing walls, you're taking walls, whatever. You edit them and then shotgun the person, or they edit and you have to shotgun them. If you're using an SMG, you're likely hip firing, and all of these things are much better on linear. So if you're someone who wants to compete or just continue to improve as a controller player, I think you should switch to linear for that very reason. Think about that exponential curve. And think about how you go to edit. It's going to start out slow at first and then get fast. But as soon as it gets fast, you're probably just finished the edit. So you have this fast sensitivity now, and you have to flick onto the person precisely and hit your shotgun shot. It can happen, but I feel like there's way more room for error because the feel of the sensitivity is changing as time goes on. With linear, it feels the same all the time. So if you just adjust to that and get used to that, I feel like you're going to be much more consistent with your edits and with your shotgun shots and with your builds. Like I said, you're probably going to want to turn your sense down. I will have my sense later on in the video, but settings are just preference in this respect, so I would just recommend using whatever feels good to you. The main thing with linear is that you turn the boosts and the dampening down all the way. Those boosts are basically going to make your linear feel like exponential because there's going to be a multiplier that's applied later on. And then basically the same thing with dampening. So I'd recommend turning boosts and dampening down all the way if you are going to use linear settings. The main disadvantage to linear settings is that it makes it somewhat more difficult to make small adjustments. And it also doesn't have long range aim assist, and there is no auto rotation. And those two things make assault rifles much more difficult to use in longer ranges than they are on Legacy. Legacy makes it really easy to use ARs at long range because you have very, very long range aim assist, and then you also have auto rotation that will snap onto the target for you, and it makes it really easy to laser people out. And it feels good when you get those kills. It's nice, it's a free kill, it's easy, it's whatever. It makes it easy to apply pressure at range, but that is something you lose out on linear. I'm okay with losing out on that. I was someone that was really good at abusing Legacy settings and LT spamming or whatever, but I feel like a lot of those kills you get, those long range tags, don't really amount to much, especially if you are playing against other good players, and with skill-based matchmaking being added, and if you're someone who plays competitive, you're playing against other good players. So losing out on that long range aim doesn't really matter much. If I tag someone once or twice at range and he's an okay player, or he doesn't even have to be a good player, he can be an okay player, he's building and he's preventing my shots from hitting him, and then I either have to push him and continue to apply pressure and then potentially get third partied or sniped or whatever as I approach him, or just let him go. So I feel like those long range tags don't really amount to much a lot of times in Fortnite, unless you're third partying someone who's already weak or whatever. A lot of times I don't think those long range tags are that helpful. So that's why I don't care that much about losing out on that, even though it is definitely a disadvantage. ARs feel very weird at first on linear. They definitely took me the longest amount of time to get used to out of anything on linear. ARs were the hardest, but I feel like my medium range assault rifle aim is improving and getting better, and that's what you want the ARs for, is medium range. Like I was just saying, those long range fights I don't think are that great. Pretty much everybody has a sniper right now. They're so common. So you're probably just going to get sniped if you are using an AR at long range anyways. So I don't think you're losing out on that much. You can be good at medium range on linear settings, and I think that's what matters most with the assault rifles. So I'm comfortable with it because I feel like I am improving at medium range, and in a few days I'll likely be even better. So yeah, I think you should approach that the same way potentially, because long range fights just really aren't that beneficial. In Fortnite, most fights, most kills you're going to get are probably going to be with you taking an opponent's wall and editing on them and shotgunning them. And that's how most fights go for me, at least. And linear settings helps with that a lot. If you're someone that wants to get used to linear settings, I would recommend just 1v1ing a friend. Since linear is such a hot topic in the controller community right now, you probably know somebody who is also switching or who is thinking about switching to linear settings. So hit them up, ask them to 1v1, practice your linear settings that way, get used to your builds, get used to your edits, get used to your shotgun shots, and a stress-free, like easy environment where you can get lots of fights over and over again. And then go into pubs and try to work on assault rifles. That's what I did. Assault rifles for me took the longest to get used to, but I did eventually get used to them. And I feel like I am becoming a much better player since I have switched to linear settings. The way I look at linear settings are that it's an innovation in the Fortnite settings. Past innovations are things like Builder Pro, custom keybinds, double edit keybinds, lots of things like that. Edit aim assist potentially. Like there's been several changes with settings in Fortnite, and there have been people who adapted to those settings and gotten better. And then there have been some people who didn't want to adapt, didn't want to learn the new settings, and then had to catch up later on. If you're someone who wants to be as good as you can be or compete or whatever, I would recommend trying out linear settings at the very least. Maybe after a few days you don't like it and you go back to Legacy, but I think at the very least you should try it out and see what you think. Think about those past innovations. Builder Pro. There was people who tried it right away and were like, wow, this makes my building a lot better. I'm definitely going to use this. And then there was also people who didn't want to switch, but had to switch later on because building evolved to such a point where like you had to be able to build really good in order to compete in the game. Same thing with double edit keybinds. Me personally, I did not want to switch to double edit keybinds. I did not think it would be worth it. I didn't think it would matter that much, but I ended up having to switch to them. And I felt like I got a lot better once I got used to those double edit keybinds, and I wished I switched sooner. So that's how I see linear settings, especially if they do add some form of long range aim assist, because I'm not really sure why Legacy has long range aim assist and the new settings don't. It doesn't really make sense to me. It seems like a flaw. So hopefully they add long range aim assist, and then you can be consistent at even long range with the assault rifles, or at least play the game at long range with assault rifles. But as of right now, that's not a thing. So I like I said, at the very least, I would recommend trying linear and seeing if it is something that works for you. If you did enjoy this video, let me know in the comments below what you want to do. I should have showed my sensitivity on screen at some point throughout it. At least I intended to. So I'm going to end the video there. Please do remember to give it a like, subscribe, comment down below what you think, and I'll see you guys another time. Thanks for watching. Oh, they didn't even kill each other. Kinda wish I took that RPG earlier. Yep, because I have rockets now. Does this guy have medkits? No. Let's go. That was a good game. First game on.